I watched a lot of TV. A lot. It was a Republican National Convention. And so we watched it every night for 4 or 5 hours. And it was interesting. I wouldn't say that it wasn't. Saw a lot of different speakers. I have to admit, I like the idea of Donald Trump, that he could very well be our next president. And I have to admit that I've always liked Donald Trump. I liked him before he announced his candidacy for president. I liked it for his TV show. Excuse me. In fact, I can recall back as early as 1988 or 89, returning from a trip from Arizona, visit my folks, and we stopped at a motel in El Paso, Texas. And when flipping through the channels, with the little remote, I came across one channel that had advertised that Donald Trump was going to be interviewed on their network later that evening. So I made it a point to watch it. Because like I said, I just liked Donald Trump. Something about him I liked. And so I was immediately, when he announced his candidacy for president, I was immediately on the Trump train. Doesn't mean I like everything about him. I'm aware he has faults. I'm aware that he probably has many faults. And I'm aware that he has positions that I don't agree with. But I still feel overall he was going to promote a cause that I think we could latch on to. I listened to the various speakers. There was Nikki Haley, and there was Marco Rubio, and they both assured us that the Republican Party was united. And I can only say that I hope Donald Trump is wise enough not to trust either Nikki Haley or Marco Rubio, especially Nikki Haley, but Marco Rubio too. He's kind of a, go-along Republican. And then there's a mother who spoke, and she lost her son to fentanyl, and she told her heartbreaking story about her losing her son to fentanyl. And then another woman who spoke, and she talked about how her son survived a couple tours to Afghanistan, only come back home and get killed by thugs on the streets of New York. And then there was Hulk Hogan. I don't know if you saw his display, but that was quite entertaining. And then Franklin Graham was there, and he gave a prayer. And then there was Kid Rock, and he did a rap song, and he kept shouting, towards the end of the song, he'd go, "Fist up, Trump, Trump, Trump." I think that's what he said anyway. Fight. It's a rap song, so I'm not sure. Fist up. Fight. Well, I think he said Trump, Trump, Trump. But I don't know, maybe he said fight. Who knows? Like I said, it's a rap song, so who knows? Now, Donald Trump did say at that deal in Pennsylvania, he yelled, fight, fight, fight. And the news media was quite upset about that when, during the convention, there were all these thousands of people at the convention ready to go, fight, fight, fight. And they said, that reminds us of Nuremberg, and Hitler. Anyway, I think that's what he said. And then there's a 99-year-old man who said that if his country needed him, he would re-enlist again and storm whatever beach he was commanded to storm. And then, of course, there's Yusha. Yusha is the East Indian wife of J.D. Vance. And, of course, she wouldn't even be here if it wasn't that the Democrats changed their immigration law in 1965. Not only that, but she and a whole host of other aliens wouldn't be here. And Vance would not have ever met her. He would not have destroyed 1,000 years genetic inheritance passed down from generation to generation to generation if he didn't go to college and meet his lovely. He called her lovely. We all know better. I've never seen anybody from East India that I thought was considered lovely. Well, there are some high whites because they had this caste system. I don't know if they still did the caste system over there, but you had the higher caste, which were like white, and you had lower caste, which were considered the untouchables. She was close to being the untouchables, I would say. I don't know why that incident made me think of Waylon Jennings, because the next story here, boy, had nothing to do. It just made me think. It popped in my head. So you're going to say, what does that have to do with the whole story? I don't know, but it's a funny story about Waylon Jennings, because 1985, Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, they wrote a song called We Are the World. Some of you will remember that song, We Are the World. And they got a whole host of icon singers of the 80s to record the song. It's going to be raising money for African relief, because there's starving people in Africa. And so he got a whole host of these icons of the 80s. There's Cyndi Lauper, Stevie Wonder, and Ray Charles, and Kenny Rogers, and Willie Nelson. And they started the recording late in the evening, because most of these people, they thought the best way to get all these people to assemble would be at the end of one of the Hollywood Awards shows. They have Hollywood, and so they figured all the people would be there. It would be a good time to just shoot them over there and do this recording. So the recording didn't start till late at night, or the assembly of them was like 10:30 at night. And at around 3 o'clock in the morning, because they're there trying to get this recording done, where all these people are assembled, Stevie Wonder suggested that a portion of the song be sung in Swahili. And I don't know if they ever actually recorded in Swahili, that portion that he suggested. But nevertheless, Waylon Jennings got up, walked out, and said, "No good old boy ever sang in Swahili." And he walked away. So good for Waylon Jennings. Anyway, J.D. Vance. His speech was accepting the vice presidential nomination, and he boasted of his hillbilly past. And but the fact is, he got out of hillbilly land as quick as he could, and he certainly didn't marry a hillbilly wife. He married one of those untouchables from India, who he claims is beautiful. So even though I am an enthusiastic supporter of Donald Trump, I am not naive. I haven't been in this movement for 50-some years and remain naive. But I've got 50 years of history to help determine my position on various issues. Right or wrong, I believe Donald Trump really does want to make America great again. I believe he's sincere. And I believe his followers are sincere also. But I have sad news. Donald Trump cannot make America great again, nor can his followers. No matter how hard they try, it can't happen. It may happen in the short term, but with the current level of racial demographics in this country, it will ultimately fail. Because, as they say, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Which means, according to the internet, you can't create a fine product from inferior material. You can't make America great again unless you compose it of the same people who made America great in the first place. Donald Trump, at the close of his speech at the RNC, it's on the screen. He said, "Our American ancestors crossed the Delaware and survived the icy winter at Valley Forge." Now I want to stop him right there for a minute before we read further. When he said our American ancestors, is he talking about the ancestors of the Indians from East India? I mean, was it Usa's ancestors? Was it the ancestors of the Mexicans coming over here, or from the Hmongs, or the Africa, or East Asia, or the Philippines? No, that's a statement in itself is actually kind of racist, because the only ancestors that did these things was our ancestors. Our ancestors crossed the Delaware, survived the icy winter at Valley Forge, and defeated a mighty empire to establish our cherished republic. They fought so hard and lost so many, they pushed thousands and thousands of miles across the dangerous frontier, taming in the wilderness to build a life and a magnificent home for the family. Who did that? Our ancestors. Not the ancestors of all these aliens coming here. They packed their families into covered wagons and trekked across hazardous trails and scaled towering mountains and braved rivers and rapids to stake a claim in the wide open, new and very beautiful frontier. Our ancestors did that. And he's quite right. His statement is totally accurate. The thing is, it doesn't apply to the people who've come here since 1965. It doesn't apply to them. And I doubt they even really care. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not inside the head of all the aliens, but somehow I just don't feel that when they hear, "My country 'tis of thee, land of the noble free," I don't think they think of their ancestors. I don't think they care about our ancestors. I don't think it touches them the same way that song touches us. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. You can't make something of quality out of inferior material. You need the ingredient that will make that happen. For instance, you can't make a strawberry pie out of lettuce. You can't make a blueberry pie out of green beans. You can't make a lemon pie out of cucumbers. And you cannot make a great first world nation out of third world people. And much as they're going to try, and much as they somehow delusional think they cannot do it. You can't make a silk purse of a sow's ear. You can try really hard, but it can't happen. The whole history of the world proves this to be true. What about those third world people? They come here and become citizens. What about men like Vivek Ramaswamy? It sounds like he wants the same thing we want. I don't know if you're familiar or listen to his speeches, but I've had people say, "I wish he was white," because he says, almost everything he says is dead on. And you look at it and said, I'll like that, except he's a Hindu. And but it does seem to echo all the same governmental, constitutional policies we promote. The same can be said about all those non-whites you see on the TV screen who come out and say, "Oh, they're for Trump. They're for Trump. They hug Trump. They love Trump. They praise Trump." You see these non-white, and they just think Trump's wonderful. They say, "Well, there they are. There you go. You've got people that are like us. They agree with us. So why can't they make America great?" So here's how I will compare it. You flip it down. See the little girl there? Okay. She's with her mom and dad in the back. Looks little brother, sister back there. I'm sure she loves her mom and dad. I'm sure if you put a microphone in her hand, she'll say, "I love my mom and dad." I'm sure she loves the nice house she lives in and the clothes she has. "I love my house, I love my clothes, I love my mom and dad." I'm sure she loves how her mom and dad take care of her. I'm sure she would be giving a glowing report of how wonderful they are. Kind of like these blacks and non-whites with a glowing report how much they love America. And they recite and record all those things that we embrace as Christian conservatives. You listen to Tim Scott, although he's a little strange looking, but you listen to him, he says a lot of good things. But then he goes off, marries a white woman, listens to Byron McDonald, I think it's, or Byron Donald, whatever it is. He's a black guy. He says all kinds of things we agree with. So I kind of compare them to this little girl here. She says all the things that she loves her mom and dad, loves her family, loves all, they take care of her and so forth. But here's the question. Would you put her in charge of running the family? Would you put her in charge of the family? Is she able to manage a household? Is she able to manage an income and get the bills paid and do all the things that are necessary to manage a good home? I would say no, she is not capable of doing that. Even though she loves her home. And it's the same thing here. We have a lot of non-whites. You see, the Republicans really want to give the impression all these non-whites are coming to the Republican Party, and I guess some are. But do we want them to manage the country? Are they capable of managing the country? And also, if you listen to most of them, the reason they're leaving the Democratic Party, the ones that are leaving, is because the Democrats are not doing enough for them. They're not putting enough money into their community, not giving enough money into their school system, not giving enough employment opportunities. They're not giving them enough good housing. They're not doing enough. They're turning against the Democrats because they're not getting enough free stuff. So, I don't know. So, the proposition I'm making is that Donald Trump cannot make America great again if the main ingredient to greatness of America is removed. If the main ingredient of America, which is the white race, white Christians, is removed, you cannot make America great again. And the main ingredient is the white people. This was certainly the thought of John Jay. Jason, flip it over there, please. He was the first U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice. And he said on October 31 in 1787, in the second essay of the Federalist Papers, which was written by John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton to help promote the public acceptance of the proposed Constitution. And he wrote, "With equal pleasure, I have often taken notice that Providence has been pleased to give this one connected country to one united people, a people descended from the same ancestors, speaking the same language, and professing the same religion." John Jay recognized that America's foundation had to be what? People from the same ancestry, speaking the same language, with the same Christian faith. This idea that we're going to bring all these aliens with their alien gods into our country, who don't share anything that we share except they want to share in the goodness of America, unable to help, let us say, to provide the goodness of America. And John Jay recognized that, even though most people today ignore it. So J.D. Vance, he proudly displayed his non-white wife to the world, and no one seemed to care. Nobody said, that's fine, so what, she's untouchable. So what, she's Hindu. She wants the same thing we want for America. So, and this family of this untouchable wife of J.D. Vance, and millions of others like them, have invaded America over the past 50 years. And they have been replacing the white settlers who built America, and now suffer the opposition of this massive invasion. When Donald Trump said our ancestors went across the river, those are the people who built America. It wasn't built by the people that came from East India. It wasn't built by the ancestors of Nikki Haley or the ancestors of Ramaswamy or the ancestors of Usha, and our ancestors invaded these aliens you see dotted across the screen that invaded our country past. It wasn't built by their ancestors. It was built by your ancestors. And yet they've invaded this country, and it brought our people into this massive oppression. I know they might wave their citizenship papers in the air and say, I'm a citizen, I came in the legal way. But the legal way was forced upon the American people. No American citizen voted to change our immigration laws. The whole history of America, from its first settlers in Jamestown and Plymouth, is a history of white people. The couple early states did allow Negroes as citizens. They were never considered a citizen of the United States. And if a Negro, for instance, Maine, allowed blacks to be citizens of Maine, but if the black citizen of Maine would move to another state, he could not carry his citizenship with him. He was not a citizen of the United States. Where a citizen of the United States could move anywhere in the country, and his citizenship remained intact. And on a side note, I hear sometimes people say, well, white people have civil rights too. And the argument is actually you don't. You don't have civil rights. You don't have civil rights. Civil rights are rights given to blacks and other non-whites by the 14th Amendment. The government gave them rights. The government gave them, therefore, civil rights. They got rights from the government. We weren't given rights from our government. We had inalienable rights. We had rights before the Constitution written. We had rights before the Articles of Confederation was written. We had rights before the Declaration of Independence. We had rights, inalienable rights we had from the very beginning. So you don't find any document, as far as I'm aware of, You don't find any document in the whole history of the United States that says we are granting white people citizenship rights. There is none. It was granted. They had those rights, inalienable. It was the non-whites who the government at some point said in the 14th Amendment, we're going to grant these people rights. And so, again, you cannot have a first world nation with third world people. You can try to make America great again, but you're not going to do it with third world people. And this woman that J.D. Vance is married to, she's a Hindu. We're told Vance, J.D., is a Christian, we're told, but apparently his Christianity doesn't mean much to him. Are we to believe, even for a moment, that J.D. Vance and a Hindu wife care about the Christian foundation of America? Do these Hindus care about the Christian foundation of America? Or they might talk, we need to be a people of faith. Well, yeah, okay, what does that mean? Conservatives continually speak about the destruction of our culture. What are they talking about? I hear them as what are they talking? Oh, they want you to be able to say Merry Christmas. The most destructive impact to our culture came when Democratic Senator Philip Hart and Democratic Congressman Emanuel Sellers wrote a new immigration law and passed and approved and signed into law by Lyndon Johnson October 3, 1965. At that time, America was about 92% white, according to the April 9, 1989 edition of Time magazine. Today, it's close to 50% white. And of those 50% that are with the whites remaining, how many of them are married to a non-white? Or how many of them embrace the values of traditional America? I mean, J.D. Vance is listed on the category, the statistics of being a white person, but he's married to this Hindu. Untouchable. The strength of America is grounded in its culture. And its culture from the beginning was white and Christian. That was the culture of America right from the very beginning. Certainly our culture was founded on the ideals of being pro-life and free market economy and ownership of private property and free speech and freedom of assembly and freedom of religion. But those ideals, they can only freely exist in a white Christian republic. It's the only place they can exist. Since the beginning of America, America was white-centered and it was Christian-centered. Up until about 1965. It was white-centered, Christian-centered. One of the best ways to illustrate this is the testimony presented to us tens of thousands of times every day. When a child is born, it's a witness to us that nature gave that child two identification marks: race and gender. A child is not born a Republican or a Democrat, is not born a lawyer or a plumber or electrician or architect or whatever. A child is born with two characteristics: its race and its gender. That is what nature gave us. That is the basis of our culture. Now, Trump and MAGA Republicans, they say they want to make America great again. But to make America great again, it has to become what America was. To repeat myself, our founding fathers gave us a white Christian nation. That is what made America great. And if we abandon that, America can't be great again. Now, let's flip over here to 1 Timothy 6:10. It's a verse you're all familiar with. For the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money, the root of all evil. Sometimes people think that, well, those are evil people pursuing evil things just to get money. But it could be a good person who's making wrong decisions based upon money. I've seen people who will move from where they're at to another location halfway across the country because they say get a good job. When they should be moving across the country to make sure the children are in a good environment. But I'm going to get a good job over there. That locations are dragging, move over to get a good job. They should be thinking more of, and so that would be a love of money could bring about an evil results. And I could give some examples of that, but I won't now. So that's kind of what we're facing in this country today. Those who are shouting, "Make America Great Again," they're not consciously thinking this, but they no longer care if their leaders are white. They don't care if their leaders are Christian. As long as their leader will ensure that they're going to have a good economy and make money and put money in their pocket. That's all they care about. You hear most of them, the economy, and the economy is important, no question about that. But most of them talk about how wonderful it's going to become when America is great again. We have good trade deals, and we make more money, and the inflation goes down. Money. All the money is going to get. And to hell with what race you are, what culture, what happens to your children. They don't care. They don't care. Long as the paycheck is good. They're making money based upon the love of money, or decisions based upon the love of money. That's why even Fox News has quite often one of their major guests is Rick Grinnell, who's an open homosexual. I think he was an ambassador to Germany or something. Rick Grinnell, open homosexual. He's supposed to be speaking our values. And then another one, Tammy Bruce. You see her a lot on Fox News. She's supposed to be promoting our values? Come on. And I've seen Rick Grinnell even on Newsmax. And then Rob Benson, he's another openly homosexual, conservative, pro-Trump, and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, really? Are these who were being given to become our spokesman? When Rob Benson proposed to his sodomite boyfriend a couple years ago, Brett Baer posted on the internet, "Isn't love beautiful?" And then Sean Hannity, he had that freak Bruce Jenner, who now pretends to be a woman, an ugly woman at that, and he was all giddy over her because she was going to run for governor in California, and he all giddy about her running for, and she had good policies and so on. And do people not care? And evidently they don't. 50 years ago, we would consider them sick and perverted with a mental illness. But today, normal people, you and I, we are the ones who are considered having a mental illness. We're not tolerant, and we should be more tolerant. Several of the speakers at the convention made a comment. I'm paraphrasing down very short, but you get the idea. They'll talk about how making the party, growing the party, getting down on Trump, and we need to all unite, and then they'll make comments, somewhere along like this lines. It don't make a difference if you're black or white or poor or rich or gay or straight. We are all Americans. Everybody, like a bunch of seals. It does make a difference. It does make a difference. Because America was not built on money. America was built on Christianity and white people. But those are taboo. But so many people who are following the mega agenda, think all thing we care about is make sure there's more money in our pocket. They don't care what happens to their children. They don't care what happens. They want good schools. Yeah. But they don't care who their child marries or dates. They don't care if your child becomes gay or whatever. They don't seem to care. If they care, they keep it to themselves. I'm still for Donald Trump. And I'll tell you why. Okay. Because he is a civil nationalist. That is a bad word to a lot of people who are racial nationalists. But I am for him because he's a civil nationalist, because as a civil nationalist, he will, hopefully anyway, will have more freedom. I can't imagine freedom in this country if Joe Biden or the liberal Democrats and the communist Democrats get in power. I can't imagine us being able to teach our schools, have homeschooling and so on. I can't imagine it. But in the civil government, we will have more freedom. Even though civil nationalists don't take it as far as we need to go, it still allows more leeway and more freedom for our people to promote our ideals and our program. We'll have more freedom to have our conferences here, have more freedom to put our publications, more freedom to speak out to people without the government coming in and trying to haul us off to jail like the Democrats would do if given the power. Just like they did in the Soviet Union when they drugged those landowners and the business owners and the clerks and drug them on the streets and killed them in mass in front of the people. They didn't care. Just like they took the Romanov family and murdered them all. They'll do the same thing here if they had the power. But at least on the civil nationals, we have more freedom, I believe, to promote our cause. So that's why I'm for Donald Trump. All these aliens coming into our country break the very laws of physics, which is you cannot have two objects occupying the same place at the same time. You cannot have two different people. You cannot have two cultures. You cannot have two races. Because non-whites have their own culture. Even though they try to blend in with our culture, they have their own. They developed it for thousands of years in Africa and Asia, the Philippines. That's their culture. So, we have on the screen a poem most of you are probably familiar with. The first verse is, "The stranger within my gate." Think of all these aliens. The stranger within my gate. He may be true or kind, but he does not talk my talk. I cannot feel his mind. I see the face and the eyes and the mouth, but not the soul behind. The men of my own stock, they may do ill or well, but they tell the lies I want them to. They're used to the lies I tell. And we do not need interpreters when we go to buy or sell. The stranger within my gates, he may be evil or good, but I cannot tell what powers control, what reasons sway his mood, nor when the gods of his far-off land shall repossess his blood. All these aliens we have, when are they? They cannot absorb in our nation, our culture. That's my position. So here's our mission. What do? Here's our mission. Jason, flip it over to Malachi 4. But unto you, that's you and I, unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healings in his wings. And he shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. Now what I'm referring to is a calf. You let a calf out of the stall, he starts jumping around, he's happy. He's projecting us, the happiness will come when we rise up and fear his name with the Son of Righteousness. In verse 3, and ye shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under your soles of your feet. The day that I shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. Verse 5, behold, I'll send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to the fathers. That's the last message that I see in Scripture of our mission. Our mission is a mission of race. Among all the mega chants of they're going to help the economy and help our paycheck, and we're going to have more people working, the auto industry is going to grow, and all these things are going to be happening, which are all wonderful and all good. I'm certainly not opposed to any of those things. But our mission is to turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children, and the hearts of the children back to the fathers. It's not a generational thing, or like a one generation thing. It's turning. We represent, in my way I look at this, I'm closing here now. The way I see this, we all are children of our fathers. And we are all fathers and mothers of all those who come after us. All those ancestors, all those that went across the prairies that Donald Trump talked about and built and conquered the West. They conquered it by, of course, beating the Indians. And they conquered the West. All those ancestors that we had that came across on the Mayflower and built Jamestown and built Plymouth and built Europe and all that European history, our ancestors. And we have today a generation who don't care about our ancestors. They just don't care. Our mission is to help them to touch and feel the heart of their ancestors again. Is to turn the heart of the children back to the fathers. That's our mission. And also turn the heart of the fathers to the children. But all those people out here, all those MAGA Republicans who don't really seem to care, they may somewhat to a certain degree, I don't know everyone of course, they may seem to care to some degree about what's going to happen, the racial integrity of their children. But the bottom line is they don't seem to care enough. They're more interested in how much money they're going to make with a booming economy under Donald Trump. And to heck with their children. So, like there's many people in our generation don't care about their ancestors. When I say our generation, I don't mean age, but this period of time in which we live. There's also the period of time in which they don't care about their children. And the mission, the very last mission Christ has given this church and other churches around the country who still have racial politics and believe in their race and believe in their heritage and understand their identity, know who they are, their mission is to turn the hearts of our generation, our people, to reclaim a love for our forefathers and reclaim a love for their children who will come after them. Let's close word of prayer. Our Father, we ask that you will help us be faithful. Among all this we see happening among us, all these terrible things that pounding on us continually. More than anything else, we have to conquer is our own spirit. Help us to remain faithful to our forefathers, faithful to our God, faithful to our Christian faith. Help us remain faithful. And help show that love to those we meet each and every day. And also to have that love for our children and our children's children. Help us remain strong and faithful. In your name we ask it. Amen.
But greater still, the calm assurance this child can face uncertain